Our nation is facing a pandemic. It's not the one you're thinking of, though. What is this widespread disease? It is a lack of reading. Mark Twain once said, "A person who won't read has no advantage over a person who can't read." Today, I am specifically addressing those who won't read. The American Academy of Arts and Sciences found that younger Americans, ages 15 to 44, spend on average less than 10 minutes a day reading for personal interest. The Pew Research Center, in a survey conducted in 2021, found that roughly a quarter of American adults say they haven't read a book, whether in part or in whole, in the past year, in print, electronic, or audio form. Now, we'll get to why this pandemic matters, but first I'd like to address why it exists. I myself am an avid reader, and I love discussing books with other people, but not everybody likes to read. The main defenses I've heard from non-readers is that they're too busy or books are just boring. To these people, I would respond first with empathy. I too have been busy. Since the school year started, most of my reading time is taken up with other things. But because it's important to me, I still find time to do it. I know quite a few young adults that are still able to find reading time despite the chaos of raising children and working a job. They utilize audiobooks and are able to maximize their time. We each have the same 24 hours. Evaluate your day and you will find opportunities to read. Now, I've also read boring books. A few years ago, I had to read a collection of Emily Dickinson's poems. I'm not opposed to poetry, but I didn't particularly like hers. My enjoyment of this one book, however, doesn't affect my like of others. There are so many books out there. Think of a topic and I can guarantee you there has been a book written on it. Maybe you're a skateboarder. You could read a book on skate tricks or a biography on a world-class skater and discover what gave them success. Or maybe you're a teenager who just wants a little more direction as you go through life. You could read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens and discover how to live a more fulfilling life. So, yes, you're not going to love every book you pick up, but everybody can find a book that interests them. But why is this pandemic important? How does not reading harm us? And how can reading help us? Books improve our relationships, bring healing and understanding into our lives, inspire us, and help us remember our past. How do books improve our relationships? Books help you to see others more clearly. Books expose you to new beliefs and cultures. This wide range of knowledge helps you to understand people. Instead of different and strange, they become human, just like you. The more information you have, the better you will be able to interact with people. There have been many books written on human interaction, such as How to Win Friends and Influence People and The Anatomy of Peace. Though it might seem contradictory that a book can improve your social skills, if you read these books and act on them, your relationships will get better. Books of fiction also allow you to step inside a character's head, see what they believe and why. The ability to look at the world through somebody else's eyes is powerful. Now, it stands to reason that if a book can improve your relationships, it can improve your life. After all, good relationships bring us joy. But what else can a book do? There is a new kind of therapy out there called bibliotherapy. It involves reading a book to find healing. Many people today struggle with anxiety, depression, loneliness, and more. Books can help combat this. Maybe you're reading The Hiding Place, which tells the story of two sisters. During the Holocaust, they chose to help the Jews. As a result, they were placed in a concentration camp. Instead of letting their horrible circumstances embitter and destroy them, they found peace. They found joy even amidst terrible suffering and were even able to be grateful for the fleas that infested their mattress. Their attitude has changed my life and my perspective of the world. As you read about other people's struggles, your own problems will become more manageable. Books such as The Hiding Place build your character because you gain a better understanding of human nature and the values that are intrinsic to us all. The reason I initially became hooked on reading was because it was fun. Some people watch TV for entertainment. I actually prefer to read. As Anne of Green Gables would say, books have more scope for the imagination. Of all the things to be semi-addicted to in my case, books aren't that bad. After all, they're very inspiring. Many of you have heard the phrase, the pen is more powerful than the sword. Let me illustrate. It was October 25th, 1415, the feast day of St. Crispin, and a battle was about to be won in Agincourt, France. The English morale was low, and they wished for more men. Henry V, King of England, said this: "If we are marked to die, we are enough to do our country loss. If to live, the fewer men, the greater share of honor. He that shall live this day and see old age, this story shall the good man teach his son. And Crispin shall ne'er go by, from this day to the ending of the world, but we in it shall be remembered. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. For he today that sheds his blood with me shall be my brother. And gentlemen in England now abed shall think themselves accursed they were not here, and hold their manhoods cheap, whilst any speaks that fought with us upon St. Crispin's day." The French outnumbered the English 2-1, and yet the English conquered. And though you may say that Shakespeare put those words into Henry's mouth, you cannot deny their power. Even today, hundreds of years later, it still inspires us. Memory is the greatest strength that books give us. As we forget the past, we start to repeat it. Looking back on history, it's almost comical how often we've repeated it. You'd think humans would learn, but our memory when it comes to societal disasters is very short. The time span between the 2 world wars was less than 20 years. There have been 5 attempted genocides in the past 100 years. Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Declaration of Independence, said, "A nation that expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization expects what never was and never will be. If you think you can be ignorant and free, you are wrong." Education is the foundation of freedom, and books are the foundation of education. If you want to live in a free and good society, you must read. As a toddler, I grew up listening to books. I memorized Dr. Seuss's The Foot Book before I could even read. My parents spent a lot of time reading me stories, especially from the scriptures. The foundation of my beliefs stems from those books. These days, I read a lot of deep novels and self-help books. I've gained a better understanding of human nature and of myself. Books are so powerful. They inspire us, heal us, help us understand the world around us, and help us remember our past so we can create a better future. But before you go into the world ready and excited to read, let me give you 2 cautions. First, it matters what you read. Don't expect to get the same thing out of Calvin and Hobbes that you would get out of War and Peace. Make sure you're reading the right things and not wasting your time. A good guideline is to read books suggested by people you admire. And second, reading profits you nothing unless you think about it. John Locke said, "Reading furnishes the mind only with the materials of knowledge. It is thinking that makes what we read ours." You must think and act upon what you read. That is how it will change your life. There is a disease, a pandemic, ravaging the earth. It is stealing our past, dulling our present, and restricting our future. But the cure is simple. Read. Thank you.